Sergeant Alex Kovac had never considered himself a metalhead. Sure, the occasional AC/DC pumped him up while on a run, but mosh pits and screaming vocals weren't his scene. Not until today. Not when the fate of the entire freaking planet hung by a thread. The invasion had been swift and brutal. The aliens, towering insecticidal creatures with shimmering carapaces and a horrifying array of appendages, descended without warning. Their technology made humanity's finest look like tinker toys. Within days, entire cities crumbled beneath the onslaught. Resistant efforts were futile, each skirmish another brutal reminder of the vast gulf in power. Kovac, a grunt with a knack for demolitions and a whole lot of stubborn grit, found himself in one of the last remaining resistance pockets. Their bunker, buried deep within a redwood forest, was a grim testament to how far humankind had fallen. The constant rumble of alien weaponry overhead was a bone-deep chill no amount of blankets could dispel. "Incoming!" A voice crackled over the comms, and Kovac reflexively ducked, wincing as the familiar thunder of alien plasma cannons rattled the earth above. When the barrage ceased, he slowly raised his head, eyes scanning the dimly lit room. His squad mates, faces etched with fear and exhaustion, stared back at him. Their commander, Lieutenant Harris, a woman hardened by too many battles, approached. "Sergeant, I need you topside." Kovac blinked. "Ma'am? Up there?" He gestured vaguely upwards towards the muffled sounds of continued bombardment. "Isn't that like a really bad idea?" Harris's lips twitched in the ghost of a smile. "Sometimes, Kovac, the only ideas left are the crazy ones. The eggheads back at Central think they've got a game changer, but they need someone to field test it. Someone with your particular brand of doesn't give a damn." A flicker of grim determination passed over her face. Someone expendable. Harris led Kovac through a maze of tunnels, their boots crunching against the crumbled concrete and debris. Every few steps, a tremor would ripple through the ground, and she'd steady herself against a wall, cursing under her breath. Finally, they emerged into a hidden clearing sheltered by towering redwood giants. Kovac squinted against the sunlight. The sight was a stark contrast to the subterranean gloom he'd left behind. A camouflage truck was the focal point, surrounded by a cluster of men and women in white lab coats. Their eyes held a mixture of manic energy and desperation, the look of people clutching at straws. Sergeant Kovac, I presume. A bespectacled man in his late 40s rushed forward, extending a hand. "Dr. Myers, Senior Project Lead. Lieutenant Harris speaks highly of your, field expertise." Kovac nodded, trying to decipher the tension radiating off the scientist. "Cut to the chase, Doc. What crazy plan have you cooked up?" Myers led him towards the truck, gesturing for Harris to follow. "Allow me to explain, Sergeant. Our initial analysis of the alien invaders revealed a peculiar vulnerability. Their sensory systems are astoundingly advanced compared to ours. What we initially mistook for sonic weaponry on their ships turned out to be a form of enhanced hearing." He grinned, a touch of madness in his eyes. "They can hear everything, Sergeant. And unfortunately for them, that includes some things humans happen to be very good at making." Kovac stared at him, confused. "Like whispering sweet nothings?" Myers barked out a laugh. "Not exactly, Sergeant. More like this." He motioned towards the truck. Its rear doors were flung open, revealing an intimidating array of speakers that would make a rock concert sound like a lullaby. "Observe." Myers held up a device that resembled a bulky MP3 player, a series of dials and knobs hinting at its unique purpose. He fiddled with the control, and a low rumble erupted from the speakers, causing the ground to vibrate ominously. "This device allows us to manipulate frequencies, to amplify them far beyond anything a standard audio system can produce." Kovac eyed the setup with growing unease. And you want me to go yell at the aliens or something? Not quite, Myers chuckled. He held up a battered CD case. Behold, Sergeant, concentrated chaos. Kovac couldn't quite decipher the band logo, a tangle of thorns adorned with what looked like a demonic goat skull. Is this death metal? It was the only music genre he could think of that sounded remotely evil enough to be weaponized. Close enough, Myers replied. Specifically, a band called Decimator. Now, I realize this may not be your usual cup of tea, Sergeant, but it's vital that you understand the concept. Our theory is that their hyperacute hearing, while an evolutionary advantage in most scenarios, will prove devastating when exposed to frequencies and decibel levels this extreme. He tapped the CD case. We believe it will cause significant physical and psychological disruption, perhaps even overload their sensory systems entirely. Kovac digested this, a kernel of excitement taking root amidst the absurdity of the situation. So, he began, a feral grin spreading across his face, I essentially cranked this up to 11 and watched the bugs squirm? Myers nodded, his relief evident. Precisely. Consider it a one-man sonic bombardment. He handed Kovac a pair of industrial-grade ear protectors. These are a necessity, Sergeant. And remember, this isn't about enjoying the music, it's about sheer, overwhelming sonic force. Kovac slipped on the ear protectors and carefully took the CD. He climbed into the driver's seat of the truck, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. Harris patted his shoulder, her normally stern demeanor softened by a hint of respect. Don't worry, Sergeant. We've rigged your position with a dead man switch. Go out with a bang, son. Kovac winked at her, a surge of adrenaline pushing back the fear. He revved the engine, the roar mingling with the guttural vocals that already began blasting from the speakers. It was raw, unfiltered aggression turned into sound, a primal scream into the face of an uncaring universe. He guided the truck out of the clearing, weaving through charred trees and craters as if navigating a metal-fueled chariot. The ground thrummed with the music, each bass note a punch to the air. He aimed the truck towards the heart of the alien encampment, a sprawling complex of organic-looking structures that pulsed with sickly luminescence. The first aliens appeared as blurs of iridescent movement, their carapaces reflecting the harsh sunlight. Kovac could see the confusion twisting through their ranks, the utter bewilderment at the auditory assault. The insectile creatures twitched and writhed, some even collapsing to the ground, clutching at their heads. Kovac pressed onwards, a wave of exhilaration coursing through him. This wasn't about bravery. It was pure, desperate defiance. He was a one-man wrecking crew fueled by rage and amplified by the cacophony of Decimator. It felt good. This controlled chaos, a way to strike back against the unstoppable force that had descended upon this world. As he neared the epicenter of the alien encampment, their resistance intensified. He saw flashes of plasma fire, the familiar searing streaks aimed at his truck. Most bounced harmlessly off the reinforced armor, but a few found their mark, scorching the paint and making the entire vehicle rattle like a tin can. Kovac gritted his teeth and pressed the accelerator harder. If he was going down, he was taking out as many of these bastards as he could with him. Through the smoke and dust, he could make out their central command structure, a pulsating monstrosity of flesh and metal that towered over its surroundings. The music pulsed around him, a force field of noise and anger. He rammed the truck straight into the base of the structure, metal screaming against alien biology. He didn't even try to evacuate. Instead, he reached for the volume dial and cranked it as far as it would go. From the bunker, Harris and the remaining resistance fighters watched in stunned silence. The music, already ear-splitting, seemed to crescendo into an impossible roar. Then, the alien command structure shuddered. Fissures spread across its surface, spewing fluids that glowed an otherworldly green. With a final explosive groan, The entire structure imploded upon itself, unleashing a shockwave that flattened the surrounding alien forces. The dust settled to reveal a cratered wasteland where once the invaders' stronghold had stood. The truck was a crumpled wreck, barely recognizable amidst the rubble. From the speakers, the final distorted notes of Decimator faded into silence. Back at the bunker, the scientists cheered, tears streaming down their faces. This was no grand victory, merely a reprieve brought with sacrifice and a healthy amount of sheer decibels. Harris lowered her binoculars, a knot of grief tightening in her throat. Kovac wouldn't be getting a medal, wouldn't even have a body to bury. But out there, amidst the wreckage of war, his defiance echoed. The world had just learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the power of heavy metal. The tremors that followed the collapse of the alien stronghold rattled the bunker's foundations. The remaining fighters held their breath, waiting for a renewed assault. Yet when the dust finally cleared, an eerie stillness settled over the battlefield. "What the hell?" Harris muttered. Her comm system crackled to life. Scattered reports trickled in, a mosaic of confusion and cautious optimism. Alien forces across wide swaths of the area were in disarray. Some lay motionless, seemingly incapacitated. Others were retreating in blind panic, their previously coordinated movements descending into a chaotic scramble for escape. In the heart of the crater, Dr. Myers knelt beside the smoldering wreckage of the truck. He fumbled for his audio analyzer, a disbelieving smile spreading across his face. "I don't believe it," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "The readings, they're off the charts." He glanced up, his gaze sweeping across the devastated landscape. Amidst the ruins, the speaker stood tall, defiant and scarred. From them, one final distorted chord faded into nothingness, the lingering echo of an unlikely victory. News of Kovac's sacrifice reverberated through the human resistance like a rallying cry. Across the fragmented remains of their world, a spark of hope reignited. It was a bizarre hope, tinged with desperation and a touch of insanity. But after months of relentless defeat, humanity would clutch at any advantage, no matter how unconventional. Labs were hastily converted into sonic weapons factories, repurposing concert gear, car stereos, and anything capable of producing mind-shattering noise. Teams of engineers and sleepless audiophiles, fueled by caffeine and the sheer audacity of it all, worked tirelessly to refine Myers' prototype. The resistance fighters, a motley crew of soldiers, scientists, and ordinary folk pushed to their limits, became the world's first heavy metal guerrillas. Armed with playlists of the most chaotic head-splitting tracks ever produced and custom-rigged sound systems, they emerged from the shadows, hitting the invaders with a blitzkrieg of unbearable noise. The war zone turned into a surreal spectacle. Plasma blasts intermingled with the bone-rattling vibrations of amplified death metal riffs. Alien communications dissolved into panicked shrieks and roars, drowned out by the relentless sonic onslaught. The very ground became a weapon, as tuned bass frequencies liquefied alien nests and disrupted their organic technology. It was far from a clean victory. Each ambush, every strike, was brought and paid for in human lives. Casualties were a grim inevitability, but the aliens were paying a far heavier price. Their meticulously coordinated forces, relying on their advanced sensory systems, were crippled. Their once unstoppable advance began to falter, then shatter. The shift was gradual, agonizingly slow, yet unmistakable. The invaders started fumbling, their strategies descending into a desperate scramble for survival. Reports surfaced of aliens mutilating themselves, tearing out their sensitive auditory organs in an attempt to escape the relentless sonic torment. Even their formidable weapons proved fallible, malfunctioning amidst the discordant bombardment. Humanity was fighting back, and for the first time in a long time, there was a flicker of possibility in their eyes. It wasn't just about winning battles. It was about breaking the enemy's spirit, about using their own strength against them. Dr. Myers, now affectionately known as the Maestro of Mayhem by resistance fighters, became a figure of near-mythical status. His face, plastered on propaganda posters, was a mix of sleep-deprived exhaustion and unhinged genius. The weapons he and his team were developing grew increasingly audacious. Subwoofers the size of tanks were hauled into battlefields, unleashing earth-shattering bass lines capable of fracturing concrete from a mile away. Smaller portable sonic disruptors were created, allowing fighters to unleash localized blasts of disorienting frequencies at close quarters. The aliens, their elegant and horrifying forms twisted into grimaces of pain, adapted as well. Some began coating themselves in thick sound-dampening carapaces. Others attempted to jam human frequencies with their own dissonant screeches. The arms race took on a bizarre, almost comical aspect. A battle of the bands on an apocalyptic scale. In hidden bunkers and makeshift workshops, the human passion for music had newfound meaning. DJs and metalheads turned wartime strategists, analyzing alien sonic signatures to tailor countermeasures. Teenagers, more used to blasting tunes at their angry parents, became front-line audio technicians. Every guitar riff, every drum solo was a potential weapon in a war for survival. As weeks turned into months, the tide of the war inexorably shifted. The invaders, driven half-mad by the ceaseless oral assault, grew increasingly erratic. Their once fearsome fighting formations crumbled into disorganized clusters, their movements haunted by an ever-present fear of unseen sonic ambushes. Yet, in the midst of the desperate struggle, unexpected connections began to form. A team of linguists, initially tasked with deciphering alien communications, discovered a pattern amidst the panic shrieks and roars. The aliens, in their agony, were utilizing a series of infrasonic frequencies, sounds below the range of human hearing, to rally and regroup. Dr. Myers, ever the opportunist, saw potential in this discovery. Working with specialists in animal communication, he developed a system that mimicked these infrasonic calls. Crude at first, the false signals were enough to sow confusion and distrust among the alien ranks, turning coordinated retreats into chaotic stampedes. As the resistance pushed further into occupied territory, a grim reality was laid bare. The aliens, far from the unified conquering force they'd projected, were themselves fractured. Diverse species forced into reluctant cooperation, their alliance held together by a web of fear and hunger for conquest. It was this that the humans began to exploit. Propaganda broadcasts, cleverly laced with targeted frequencies, whispered of betrayal and rebellion. Some messages focused on magnifying existing rivalries, while others fabricated dissent where none existed. United by their susceptibility to a common enemy, sound, the aliens became undone by their own disunity. The war wouldn't be won by brute sonic force alone. It would be won by a brutal symphony of discord, physical, psychological, and tactical. Each element played a vital part, an unrelenting barrage against the vulnerable ears and minds of the invaders. The final battle, when it came, wasn't the glorious clash of armies so often depicted in human history. It was a messy, grueling slog through mud and alien viscera. Exhausted resistance fighters and panicked aliens clashed in a whirlwind of desperation. But throughout it all, the thunderous pulse of heavy metal echoed, pushing back the tide. In that final confrontation, it wasn't Sergeant Alex Kovic's sacrifice that was remembered most vividly. It was the image of a woman, a young woman, tears streaming down her suit-covered face, clinging to a battered sound mixer salvaged from a bombed-out music store. Her fingers flew across the dials, switching frequencies with the intensity of a battle-hardened general. Every shift, every blast of sound, disoriented the enemy, sowed confusion, created openings for her comrades. Her name was Anya, a former sound engineer with a fierce love of electronica and a hatred for invaders twice as fierce. When finally, the last alien force surrendered, their senses ravaged and spirits utterly broken, it was an anticlimax. No grand surrender ceremony, no celebratory broadcast to the world. Just a weary silence, punctuated by the distant, mournful cries of the retreating survivors disappearing into their ships, forever scarred by their encounter with humanity. The aftermath was a strange thing. The world was a patchwork of ruins, the human population decimated. Yet alongside the somber task of rebuilding, there arose an unexpected sense of camaraderie. Soldiers sat shoulder to shoulder with scientists, sharing stories over makeshift campfires. Musicians, their instruments chipped and scarred, collaborated on impromptu jams with grizzled veterans, their shared experiences transcending the boundaries of their former lives. Dr. Myers found himself an unlikely celebrity. Press conferences were replaced by stadium tours where he demonstrated his sonic inventions to bewildered but rapturous crowds. His new brand, Sonic Devastator, with Anya as the lead sound tech, became a global sensation, their concerts part victory celebration, part fundraiser, and part PTSD therapy. The remnants of the alien invaders retreated to the corner of the galaxy, licking their wounds and forever haunted by the terrifying sonic specter of humanity. Earth, in turn, was left irrevocably changed. And as for heavy metal, well, it gained a whole new legion of fans. Even those who had never quite understood its appeal begrudgingly acknowledged that sometimes a scream into the void does more than just make noise. Sometimes it changes the world. Decades passed. The scars of the war remained etched into the landscape, a constant reminder of the price of survival. Yet, humanity persevered. Cities were rebuilt, fields replanted, and a new generation emerged, one born into a world reshaped by the echoes of war. The story of Sergeant Kovac became a legend, whispered in hushed tones around campfires. His truck, meticulously restored, took pride of place in the Museum of Humanity's Resilience, a testament to the audacity and sacrifice that had turned the tide. Anya, forever reluctant to accept the mantle of hero, established a music academy dedicated to fostering young audio engineers, many of them orphans of the war. Heavy metal and its sonic descendants thrived. Music festivals took on a new dimension as competitions for the loudest, most ground-shaking bands attracted crowds from across the globe. But alongside the celebration was a note of solemn respect. It was a powerful sound, one that had to be wielded responsibly. Earth cautiously reached out towards the stars once again. Exploration vessels were equipped with carefully calibrated sonic arrays, not as weapons, but as a potential tool for first contact. The Decimator CD, now a relic of a bygone era, was enshrined in the first interstellar time capsule, representing both the destructive and unifying power of sound. In the twilight years of his life, Dr. Myers, a grandfatherly figure surrounded by adoring grandchildren, often mused on the strange irony of it all. He would sit on his porch, listening to the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind and the distant rumble of a rebuilt city. Who would have thought, he'd chuckle, that our salvation would come from a bunch of long-haired headbangers and their noisy music? Humanity had faced annihilation, and in doing so, discovered a strength it hadn't known it possessed. They'd learned that even the loudest scream of defiance can carry a note of hope, that in a universe thrumming with unknown dangers, sometimes even the silence after the roar of battle can ring with a promise of a new beginning.
Hello, my all members, subscribers, followers. I said that my channel is low original, and I have submitted some videos in English to change the motto of my channel. Please subscribe my channel, view my videos, and share in all of your friends on Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, every social media platform to send my video and view more videos. Viewers in my video, please help me to provide some time to spend with me all members who can subscribe my channel and support me sometimes. Please view more views video and entertainment video. Please help me sometime to support my channel because I am a low middle class family. Please help me.